Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law, here in East Texas. And I've got Mimi Herman here today, who is one of our authors, and her book, The Kudzu Queen, is just getting so many reviews, so many awards. I fell in love with the book because I've gone to green here in my home. I painted every wall in my house some shade of green, from sage to forest, because I love trees. And I know all about kudzu because I've done the Natchez Trace many a time. And this is a fascinating story, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. But first of all, Mem is what she called herself when she was little because she couldn't pronounce her name. And so tell the little background on this story. I think that's fascinating because people are going to want to call you Mimi like I did, but it's a Mimi, right? So,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
Kathy, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I had just admired you for so long, and I'm thrilled to be here talking with you. What a treat this is for me. So,
Vice versa, absolutely. So anyway,
yeah.
and tell us about your family growing up. Did you grow
Okay.
up? You're in North Carolina.
I grew up in Raleigh, Raleigh, North Carolina, and kept moving away and coming back, and finally realized I missed pine trees and people I'd known for 20 years. And so I came back home. And I was a very painfully shy child. And my real name was Miriam, which I couldn't pronounce. So I started calling myself Mim. And so my family called me Mim. And now when I talk to people, I say, well, I know your grandmother's probably a Mimi, but I'm Mimi like Jimi Hendrix. So I can play the guitar with my teeth, of course.
Mimi, I think that is adorable. And I'm always, when I moved to East Texas, here in East Texas, they call grandparents Mima and Papa.
Hmm.
And I'm like you. I had my grandmother Murphy and my grandfather Murphy. We called Papa.
Hmm.
And then my dad, I call Daddy. My kids call him Big Daddy, which is so Southern. And then, but on my mother's side, we called my grandparents. It started out Mutter and Dyke because that was my grandfather's nickname from when he was a kid. And
Hmm.
it switched to Mud and Dirt. But that's my Kansas upbringing.
Love
But you
it.
know what I love about the South and where I live and have lived in Texas for a long time is that it's all about storytelling. And I was telling Mimi at the beginning of this conversation before we recorded that I set my bar at To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee because it was the one of the first movies that I was scout. I related to her. I was a tomboy. I was climbing trees. I didn't want to wear dresses, and they forced us to wear these horrible dresses to school. But your publishing house, Regal Publishing, sent me these reviews, and I'm just going to have to read some of these because they're so important. It says the Kudzu Queen is sure to be an instant classic alongside To Kill a Mockingbird and The Bluest Eye. Oh my gosh, that was from the Southern Review of Books. What a great thing to do. And Shelf Awareness, love everybody there. 15-year-old Maddie is an endearing narrator who highlights the region's lush nature and culture. But eventually, the novel reveals complexities of power, sexuality, and racism in the South just before the U.S. entry into World War II. Shelf Awareness. Um, Forward reviews. I mean, you've got this wonderful. Your one of your main characters is this James Cullowhee. Is that how you
Hmm.
pronounce it?
Yep.
And I love that it was described in one of the reviews. He was devilishly handsome or a handsome devil, and I just thought, oh, that just. But the story about Maddie is the young 15-year-old girl who runs into this man who blows into town. He's gorgeous. He's I kind of think you remember the musical, The Music Man, when he
Yeah.
when he marched into town and everybody just got on board. It kind of reminded me of that and charismatic stranger
Hmm.
who nobody'd seen the likes of him before. And so he wants to bring kudzu in as a cash crop to
Hmm.
the South, which it just grows like kudzu. I mean, that's like a saying, but I can't explain this book. Everybody's got to read it because it is so, it's like To Kill a Mockingbird. I read it sometimes 2 times a year still. I mean, for years and years, because every time I read it, subtle nuances come forward as I grow in age and experience and reading. I see things I didn't see before. And that's kind of like, if you pull back the kudzu, you every more stories get revealed, kind of like layers of an onion. It's a fabulous read, and it's getting so, even David Sedaris, who I adore, it's just amazing. But you hold a BA from the University of North Carolina, which I love North and South Carolina. You have an MFA in creative writing from Warren Wilson. You're the author of, and I want to read this book, A Field Guide to Human Emotions, Logophilia. Is that how
Mhm.
you pronounce it? And the Art of
Exactly.
Learning. I have to read that book because I am addicted to college. I'm working on my master's myself, and I don't ever want to stop. You've done writing workshops. You've got one coming up in Ireland.
Hmm.
Which, tell us a little bit about that, because I think you've done them in France, Italy, New Mexico, and online. That is I tell every author in my group, and we have really thousands in our book club now, go to these writing workshops. You can write it all off, and you get to go to these wonderful, beautiful, exotic locations. And tell us about the Ireland one.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is our second year in Ireland. We've been going to France for, I think this will be our 12th year, and Italy and New Mexico for a long time. And Ireland, I lived in Ireland, and the new book I'm writing now is set in Ireland. And so
Ooh,
my
thrill.
heart is totally in Ireland. These workshops, they're really workshop retreats because you've got the whole morning to write and then this really fabulous workshop in the afternoon. Everything's project based. We sit down with you at the beginning of the week and say, what's your dream writing project? What would you like to accomplish this week? And then the whole week, that's what we focus on. Amazing food and wine and cocktails, and of course, whiskey because it's Ireland, right?
Right,
So it's
right.
really just a wonderful week, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And
We have
what's the dates? The
the
dates.
dates are September 3rd through 10th, and we have one space left available in that workshop.
Oh, I hope everybody's listening to this. We're going to be posting this after the recording on my Kathy L. Murphy Big Book Love channel. Here, you should go if you get on board. And you have a website. It's
Actually,
www.mimiherman.com.
yeah, but for this one, you go to www.writeaways, WRITE aways.com.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you really, if you are serious about being a writer, I can't go on enough. I just was talking to all my authors that went to Jamie Ford's in the chateau in France, and I have another Carolyn Turgeon does Alaskan ones. I mean, it's just
Wow.
amazing the places that you go. But how did this all start? Because author stories of what made you become a writer.
Oh, well, as I mentioned, I was a painfully shy child. And yeah, I know a lot of us out there who everybody thinks we're really outgoing, but we have that shy side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a fourth grade teacher, and I'd say she was the first person outside of my family that really saw me, outside of my home that really saw me. Her name was Miss Stevens. And she taught us how to write poetry. And for the first time, I felt like I had a voice. And so I wrote tortured adolescent poetry all the way through till college and actually well past it. And then I ended up at UNC studying with Doris Betts and Max Steele, who are my heroes. I've had amazing teachers my whole life, and they only taught fiction, so I had to start writing fiction. So I've gone back and forth between poetry and fiction ever since.
Do you have any of your poetry that from when you were a child?
I do, I do. Um,
Well, not handy, is it by any chance?
no, but I'm trying to think. So we had this competition when I was in elementary school called the American Association of University Women Poetry Competition.
Oh, wow.
And so one year I won second place for a poem um, a- that was called Thoughts of a Child in a Concentration Camp.
Oh my goodness. In the
Very
what grade
serious
were
child.
you in?
I was in fifth grade, maybe. And
Wow.
one year I wrote one um, called Southern Belle about sort of think it started out, cry for the lady, she wears a painted smile. So that's a kind of child I was, very serious minded.
I was the same way, but painfully shy. But I had a fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Bolden,
Really?
who was kind of bigger than life. She
Huh?
traveled the world. She wore capes and scarves. And
Ooh.
now I find myself emulating this woman. She wore these big French twists and she was just exotic. And she was rumored to have many husbands. I don't know how many she had, but she was always bringing things like, sardines in a can, things that we would never tasted in our
Wow.
life, and sharing it. And she's the one, if you read my first book, The Pulpit Queen's
Yeah.
Tear, where I talk about Mrs. Bolden and another teacher, Mrs. Perrier, who was a junior high. But teachers and
Hmm.
librarians, our teachers were our librarians. We didn't have, until I got in high school, a full-time librarian. But they are so important because they plant these seeds. Wouldn't you
Yep.
agree that? But this is why I stress so much, teachers, be careful what you say,
No.
because children, they hang on to those dear words, but they also hang on to the shaming words. And so,
It's so true.
there's got to be a way of correcting or helping a child without, you know, I can remember a boy stuttering in a seventh grade where he was at to read aloud. He couldn't read, and it was painfully evident. And the teacher did nothing. And she goes, you know what? I think it's time to move on. That was Mrs. Perrier. She just went on and she worked with him later. But, we've got to be very, and even if you're not a teacher, just be careful of those words that you say, because we hang on to them, don't we? You never forgot that teacher. Miss Stevens was her name.
Mhm.
Have you talked to her since?
I have not been able to find her. I've been trying and trying and trying, but I have not. And in fact, I love what you were saying because I teach, in addition to right-of-ways, I teach teachers how to integrate the arts across the curriculum, and I do residencies with kids. And I feel like part of my mission, part of my job is to undo the damage that was done to teachers when they were little kids, and to kids, and who were told you can't carry a tune in a bucket, you
Oh,
have terrible spelling, you have two left feet. So I think everybody's an artist and everybody's a writer, and my job is to help them
high
discover
five on that one.
themselves. Yeah.
People say, I can't draw, I'm not an artist. And I go, you don't have to draw to be an artist.
No. Although
Art,
you
life
do,
is
you
an art.
paint beautifully. I've seen your paintings.
Oh, I've got a new one right behind me that I've
I
got to show you.
see.
This is an East Texas scene that I made up. I don't know if you can see it. It's
I
green. See, I
love
put it
it. It's
down.
green. Yeah.
If you look really close, there's a rhinoceros walking
Oh my
across
goodness.
the scene, because, see, everything that I paint comes from what I've read. And
Hey.
even though I live here in East Texas, I've had this whole era where I wanted to go to Africa, I wanted to go to Africa, I wanted to go to Africa. And I've always been fascinated with animals. And I I just put these visions from those books in my paintings, and I mix the two together. And I know people don't understand it, but I go, that's what happens when you become a reader. You can
Mhm.
imagine, and then you want to go. So
Yeah.
you're taking people there with your writing workshops. And how fabulous. And how many years have you been doing that?
12 years.
That's amazing. Well, when I get through graduate school, I want that schedule, because that's my whole goal, is to get a job good enough that I can go to writing workshops and travel and paint in those
Yeah,
countries. Because
absolutely.
I paint, I'm one of those. I took this whole class on Orientalism, about people fantasizing the Orient. Now they
Mhm.
don't. Now Pan Asian, but I fantasize about these places. But when you go, you find out they're not really that much different than us. They just talk different, have different accents, but we all want the same things.
Yeah.
So you were telling me that you were working on another book that's going to
Mhm.
be set in Ireland. And
It is.
how far along are you on that book?
I probably got about 250 pages. I don't know how many of them will make it to the final draft, but it's still early in the book. I have to write my way into a book to discover what it's about. I write for the same reason I read, to find out what's going to happen next.
And do the characters take on a life of their own?
Oh my gosh, they totally do. So my favorite character in this book is a drag queen named Holly Unlikely.
Oh my gosh. In Ireland?
In Ireland. Oh yeah. Oh
Now
yeah.
that's a story I have not heard before. I am definitely, please put me on the top priority of getting me that book. I want to read it
Absolutely.
as soon as it's ready. But let's go back to talking about your family. Are you an only child? Do you have siblings or
I'm the eldest of three girls. I have two younger sisters I just saw a few weeks ago in Brooklyn, which was great. We're very, very close. I have a
three
wonderful, wonderful.
sisters?
There's three of us. Yep. Yep.
And you're the oldest?
Hmm.
Me too. I mean, this
What?
is like, yes, I mean, this is just, I can't believe it.
Wow.
And so are your, now what's your sisters' names?
So Becky is the middle and Erica is the youngest.
Oh my gosh. We're Kathy, Karen, and Carol. And
No
we're all
way.
KLMs too. Kathy Louise, Karen Lynn, and Carol Lane.
Oh my
So, but
gosh.
you know, my best friend Heidi's sister's name is Becky, and her sister's name is Erica. I mean,
What?
just yes, my best childhood
Crazy.
friend. I mean, it's just we'll have to talk later.
We will,
But
for sure.
this is so. This is why it's so important that people have conversations with authors and come on and listen to them because you can understand so much more of where the story was born and comes from when you get to know the person.
Yep.
And I just want to know everything about you. And
Oh.
so, you know, when you were in school, what was your clubs that you joined? What did you like to do? I know this is going to be good.
Well, so okay, I did theater a lot. I
Oh,
did a
me
lot of
too.
theater, a lot of dance. And
Oh,
then
me
when I was
too.
in junior high, I was a member of the Methodist youth group, the Catholic youth group, my first kiss, and the Jewish youth group. I was friends with the kids who smoked pot and the nerds and the
Me
jocks.
too.
Yeah.
I went from group to group to group
Yep.
because I would get upset when they get too much drama. But I grew up in the Christian church, but now I'm in the Methodist church. But I've studied world religions, and that's why I want to
Huh.
go to India. And so,
Wow.
oh
That's
my
great.
gosh, this is just wild. So you like to be in all different kinds. It sounds like to me you're like me. You're a lifelong learner.
I am totally like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I had a funny story to tell you. You were talking about the Music Man. So one of the
Yes,
things that's so cool about this book is that I have learned more about the book in the last year and a half since it's been published than I knew going into it, just from having conversations with people. And so
right.
I don't remember how it came up, but somebody said the Music Man, and I suddenly had this moment. I went, oh, right. So I told you I love theater. So when I was in high school, when I was 15, actually, I worked at the Dogwood Dell Outdoor Theater as just a volunteer. And I was with my friend Constance, and we were sort of roaming around the outside of the theater. So it's an outdoor theater. So we were roaming up and down along the seating areas. And it was the Music Man that evening.
Oh
And
my God.
so I had completely forgotten about this. And then somebody said Music Man. And I thought, I remember going to see the Music Man. And while Constance and I were running around, we came across a genuine flasher, the raincoat and everything. And so,
God.
you wonder where books come from some days. I think there's something about a flasher and the Music Man that stayed way in the recesses of my
It was in
brain,
your subconscious.
right? Never thought about it the whole time I was writing the book, but it
So
came to
other people have said the Music Man to
me.
you. It
Hmm.
just reminded me of it so much because, you know, and then there you've got to read this book. It's called Crimes in the Neighborhood, and it's about a little girl who is convinced the man next door is the one that murdered this little boy. And
Hmm.
she's like trying to solve it's like that, you know, where a child discovers something and then they
Hmm.
get on a mission.
Yep.
And it's her last name is Berne. But you know, I've read so many books; they're not the same story at all.
Right.
But I understand how people can be charmed by somebody who comes in
Hmm.
and you know he's got this charisma and style and kudzu is something they look at every day and they just didn't even think and they're going to make jelly with it and all this stuff. I just and the kudzu queen. Every town has I actually was invited to speak a keynote at this thing called the Toad Suck. Toad Suck Festival in Arkansas, and they had a Toad Suck Queen. I go, what? It was huge, but a tornado hit that night, and all we had to cancel the book event. We all went to for shelter. It was, but we have the craziest queens in the South,
We
and
do.
my friend David Valdez, who's a playwright now in New York, he wrote a book called the about the crazy Southern queens, the Rhinestone Queen, and all the county queens. And have you ever been in a pageant?
I have not. Have you?
My mother forced me in one, and it's in my book too. It was a nightmare because I was a tomboy, but
Mhm.
ironically, my mother was real into beauty. And
Mhm.
so when I couldn't find a way to figure out how to get through college, I just went to what I know best was my mom's beauty habits. I became a hairdresser. And that's
Okay.
why I had the first hair salon bookstore in the country.
I love it.
And you get in the habit of always, but if you saw me in my paint clothes, pigtails, paint clothes, ball cap, I'm a tomboy,
Yeah.
just scout. And but I was painfully shy. Nobody believes me, but reading gave me wings to fly. And I realized that, you think you're alone when you're a kid and you have these disability. I mean, it's almost debilitating
Right.
shyness.
Right.
People talk to you. I would cry. I
Me
would
too.
be, they'd say, "Oh, Mary, put a rock on that girl's head. She's going to be too tall." And I was like, I'd start bawling. It's just like, I can't help it. I'm growing this tall because my family is short. So, anyway, back to your book. The book is amazing. And it's one of those, I think it was Lee Smith who I've just got to look what she said. It was great. She said, "What a wonderful novel. Mimi Herman brings us a charming charlatan. I love that word. A farming community and a major turning point." See, I grew up in a small rural town in Kansas. The most appealing young heroine since Scout. This book demands to be a movie. Absolutely. Have you had any interest yet on that?
Still working on that. Got some irons in the fire.
I I predict that, Netflix series, something, but
Mm.
this would be absolutely perfect for a movie. We've got so many that are coming out now from Where the Crawdad Sings and, The Help, all these different stories that I've picked for our readership, Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood. But this one is from a 15-year-old. And, we don't hear a whole lot of books from a kind of that preteen adult, you know, girl character. We hear them when they're young or in their 20s, but I like the fact that she's 15 and she's on a mission. So and her best friend is fascinating to me. And then I'm not giving anything away because this book is one of those that I'm flipping the pages so fast. I just adore your book. And if everybody's listening doesn't run out and read it, they're going to know somebody that was like this Jim Culloway. They're
Hmm.
going to know somebody like Maddie and her best friend and all the characters in the book. So, how long did it take you to write this?
Well, I started writing this book in the early mid 90s.
Uh huh. Okay.
Yeah,
Listen
and then
to
I
these
kept putting it
writers.
away. Yeah,
That churning out books a year, that only happens after years of,
yeah.
doing the hard work. So it took you a long time.
It
And
took me a long time.
it was published when?
It was published a year and a half ago, January 10th, a year and a half ago, a little bit more.
And see, this is another thing that drives me crazy about readers. Book clubs don't care when a book is published. If they haven't read it, it's new to them. And I've always said a good book is a good book no matter when it was written. I mean, you can read any book like To Kill a Mockingbird or I'm just thinking of another classic story, The Grapes of Wrath, anything. Um, they're just as timely as they're timeless.
Yeah.
So Dickens, for that matter. But your book is going to have a long shelf life, and so and you're going to want to go visit kudzu country, because if you don't know what kudzu is, the landscape that it creates on the Natchez Trace is just absolutely. It's kind of ghostly,
It is. And
and
oddly beautiful.
it is. It's
Yeah.
sculptural.
Yes.
It's like art. It's
Mhm.
nature is art. So I'm excited about it. And so have you already finished touring and everything for this book and doing that, or are you still doing
I'm just
things?
doing a little, I'm doing a lot of book clubs, both local ones and zooming into people's book clubs. So if people are interested, just let me know. Happy to zoom into your book club.
Well, if you come to do you come to Texas, or you do this online working with Texas teachers?
I'll actually be in Arlington, Texas.
Oh, when are you going to be in Arlington?
Um, I think it's next week. You'd think I keep it in mind, but this
Oh,
month,
yeah. Well, I
really.
was I was hoping it was fall, because
Yeah.
once I get back in college, I know all the librarians. They love
Yeah,
to have different
good.
authors, and I've already brought one author to the university to speak to the students about the Cold
Nice.
War, of a book we picked on her growing up during the Cold War in Antonita Durnova. But anyway, let me know. I don't know if I could get away, but I'll get Texans to, book club members and authors to turn out. If you can share that with us in maybe a post, I'll send them to your Facebook page. Are you on all social media?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. That's about as much as I can manage being the
I
introvert.
know I tell all my authors, though, one of the best ways I've gotten the word out on my authors recently has been LinkedIn.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I
And
am on
people
that too,
go,
actually. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
why LinkedIn? And I said, well, because people that are corporate and leaders in their companies, they're readers.
Mhm.
And so I get a lot of people reading those. And it's really expanded my world. And then of course our my Pulpit Queen channel, Kathy L. Murphy, Big Book Love, our 71% of our readership is from the Pan Asian community,
Wow,
and then
that's
the United
great.
States, and then the UK.
Uh-huh.
So, but people are watching it everywhere. It's mostly because I run some film clubs too, and
Mhm.
I happen to be a big fan of Bollywood films and
I
Asian
saw.
films and Pan Asian films. So they always come on there when I'm making posts about that. But I really want to stress that this would be an incredible movie if there's any producers out there looking for a To Kill a Mockingbird story that is absolutely it's just amazing, and the way you write is beautiful. And so, and you got your MFA in creative writing. And tell
Mhm.
me about the person. I didn't wasn't familiar with the author that was over that program. What was his name? Warren.
Warren
Um,
Wilson is the MFA program. But
he's the head of it. Yeah.
oh, actually, no, that's just the name of the college,
Oh,
the MFA
oh,
program.
oh,
No,
it's the name of the paper. Okay. All right. Well,
but
I
I
just
studied with Richard Russo and Charles Baxter,
Oh my
Robert
gosh,
Fawcett,
that's
Harley.
great. Now, have you been at the Pat Conroy Center? Have you been there
I have
yet?
not. No, no, I have
I
not.
need to email Jonathan. He needs to get you there, because the Pat Conroy Book Club convention's coming up, and we help by my annual fundraiser of auctioning off authors things they donate
Oh,
to.
wow.
They Every year when we have our convention, we ask our authors to donate something that ties into their book.
Nice.
A fresh kudzu uh, plant sent to somebody would be absolutely, and a tiara. Yeah. And then if they can figure out some way to autograph it, we auction it off, and we help fund the Pat Conroy reading literacy programs, and especially the book club convention. But I went one year and it was so wonderful. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna send Jonathan a. I haven't talked to him in a while. I need to talk to him, so I'll send him a note about you. And there's so many wonderful bookstores up and down that
Yeah.
um, you know, the East Coast that you can go to. There's a movable feast up at where Lynchfield Books is. They do a one. I've done that whole, trail on down to the Miami Book Festival, and
Wow.
that's amazing. We need to get you more exposure for your so your kudzu queen can grow.
I love it.
Sorry
Thank
for
you
the
so
pun.
much.
So, what is it about this book that you want people most to know or to understand, that if they haven't read it and that they would, they have to rush to purchase it to read it? What is something you can share, or what's the craziest thing that's happened since this book came out?
Gosh, the craziest thing is that, well, one of the crazy things is that I've been getting play by for about this book as people are reading it, and they've been men who are writing to say,
Absolutely.
right. So it's not just a book for women. I think the thing that matters to me most in my writing and in my teaching and in this book is to pay attention to everything, to pay attention to who people are, to the complexities of them, to avoid the stereotype and dig deeper. And so that when I was growing up, and I could tell that you were exactly the same way, books were where I got lost. And I
Yes.
would emerge blinking hours later,
Time
the world,
disappeared.
right? And this, I wanted to create a book where people would get lost and emerge later, and where there were no easy answers, you know, but that somebody once told me, you know the score, but you don't keep it.
Right.
And my job as a writer is not to tell people how to think, but to get them to think and to tell a great story and with great characters along the way. So if I've done nothing else, that's been my intention. That's what I've tried to do with this book.
It's all about the story. And I can't stress that enough, because that's why when you hear the background of an author, when you hear why they wrote the book, and why Ireland, why'd you set your next book in Ireland?
I lived there for a year after college. I wanted to go to a place that had Catholic boys and traditional music. What I didn't realize till years later was that I liked latched Catholic boys. But I went and lived there for a year. I cycled from London to Liverpool by myself, and then I lived in Dublin, and I cycled from Dublin all the way around the country, about a 670-mile solo trip. I've always done the things that scared me the most, and that was one of them. And so when it came time to think about what I wanted to write next, I wanted to write about Ireland in the mid 80s, and a missing child of someone who's big in a missing grandchild of someone who's big in the IRA, who suddenly appears on
Ooh.
someone else's doorstep. So I got all excited about that. And there's always like something at the core of every book. So for the Kudzu Queen, it was this quality, and I'm really curious to know if you had the same thing. I have this theory that 15-year-old girls have this quality sometimes, often, where they're testing out their sexuality. They're sort of trying it on for size. And sometimes it gets them into situations where they're not sure they can handle what's going on. And so to me, that's what's at the core of this book. It's like what happens when you attract the person you're trying to attract, and it's not what you anticipated.
No, it's a little scary.
It's,
you know
yeah, it can be very scary.
you get crushes on people that you don't need to have a crush on. Yeah, it's important. And then and kids, I've worked with kids with youth groups my whole life. Kids don't like to tell, when things happen. They're too embarrassed by somebody did something. And so, I said, it's okay. I love this Me Too thing, because now we're starting to talk about these issues, both men and women, and both my boys in my youth groups and my girls. We talk about this stuff because I have a theory in life that if you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lies,
That's a
where
good
you
theory.
mess up. And also, um, it sets you free, because if you always, now you don't want to be so blunt, you hurt somebody. But
Right,
if you always tell the truth, and we all know in our core being what is good.
right,
And sometimes because we want to be liked and things, people do things they don't, but it doesn't define you. It just defines you at that age. And so, I tell people, just tell your truth. And no, I mean, or like this girl, what this girl does is just amazing. Maddie, I just left her. And my daughter's name is Madeline, and her
oh,
nickname's Maddie. And Constance was my childhood friend, is now the librarian at the library in my hometown. She's,
wow.
I
Everything
mean,
makes sense.
And see, I'm one of these people. There was a book, and I wish I could find it years ago. I used to be a book publisher's rep, and we had this book that said, I can't remember the title of it, but it was about paying attention to things you drive every day to work. What do you see that you? I look for something new every day.
Oh,
And
that's a
I've
good one.
had the craziest things happen because of this. One day I was driving to work at the bookstore I was working at, and I looked in the ditch. I felt a blur, and there was a big black Labrador running beside me, and beside it was a pot-bellied pig. And they
What?
were running in the ditch beside me, and I just go, well, that's something I've never seen before.
Huh.
And and I want to write a book on just short stories of things that have happened to me, and then how pay attention, because those little things can turn into stories.
Hmm.
And you're really, do you eavesdrop when we're in airports?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I cannot believe some of the things people say in public.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't even share them here, but I was staying, when I was a book rep in New York, I was walking out of my room at the Mayfield Hotel there on Central Park West. And I was walking out of the room, and there was a boy beating on a door, a girl beating on a door. And she goes, let me in, let me in. And she was a kid. I mean, she was probably 15, 16.
Huh?
And she goes, I didn't mean to give you crabs. And I'm just going, okay, why is she here in the middle of a school day with her boyfriend in a hotel, and she didn't mean to give him crabs? I'm just going, you can't make that stuff up.
No.
And I've thought about her, what happened to her, because
Yeah.
that's been a long time ago. I just hear the craziest things people say, and I just go, you just. So I work them into my. No, I'm working on a novel. I'm working those little
Okay.
stories into a novel, and I mix that. I change the genders, or
Mhm.
like you do. But and do we have, is the main character in your new book going to be a woman, a young woman again?
And
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. Well, we tend to write best about what we know, but then you look at Memoirs of a Geisha, which
Hmm.
was by Arthur Golden, and I
Right.
can't believe a man wrote that book.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's one of my favorite books of all time.
It is.
And but I'm a voracious reader. So what's your favorite author?
Well, my favorite author is William Gibson, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
not what you'd expect, not what I write, but I just think he is brilliant at understanding people. And so many of his books are set just a little bit ahead of wherever we are right now. So
Yeah.
they're in the future, but they're not futuristic. They're not Star Trek. And just sentence to sentence, character to character, the thread of the plot, I can't put him down. I mean, I read pattern recognition every year, like you read Mockingbird every year.
Like Cormac McCarthy, and
Yeah, brilliant.
people that are writing. I read a lot of westerns,
Mm-hmm.
Cortez's books, The True Grit. I love all those kind
Yeah.
of things, and it's because I grew up in a small town in Kansas. But I also like to, my favorite Southern writers. Most people haven't even ever heard of Ellen Gilchrist, and
Oh,
oh,
Ellen Gilchrist, I love
I
her.
love her, and I haven't heard anything about her for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And she's older than me, so I always worry about that. But I do. Larry Brown's another one that's
Mhm.
just, people go, Larry Brown, you like Larry Brown because Father and Son and Faye and all those. There's
Mhm.
so many great books. Well, we're going to have to share our reading lists, and
Definitely.
if you want to, you could send me what books that you would recommend that you like to read, because I think authors recommending authors
Mhm.
is I got that. this is this is Faralina, and she's jealous. She's my little. She lived with me 4 years before she'd ever let me touch her. She was feral, and so she's mad at me because I'm talking to you. But she'll get over it. I know, I hear you. But anyway, do you have pets? Do you have
I
pets?
do. I have a cat. Yeah. I'm
And
surprised has not appeared on the screen also.
when
His
you
name is
start
Guy.
talking, see, I don't talk at all when I'm at home.
Mhm.
But then when I get with somebody, I can't stop talking. So what's your cat's name?
Guy.
Guy. Now
Uh,
that's cute. And
yeah.
how did you get Guy?
He belonged to a neighbor who moved away, and he'd already sort of started coming here for food anyway, and he just got bolder and bolder. And now he is our cat, big orange cat. And we call him the mayor of Lancaster Street. He will let 2-year-olds drape him over their arms. And if there's a party going on outside, he has to come up and, make sure that he approves.
Oh my gosh.
He's
I had
fat.
a cat like that named Paul Newman. He was a big chocolate Siamese cat with the
Nice.
blue
With the blue
penetrating.
eyes, yeah, right?
So, and Paul was like a bear. He was huge and he was just a lover
Gosh.
boy. But I've had a lot of animals, but they're all rescue. So, anyway, and you live in a small bungalow, is that right? There?
Medium-sized bungalow, actually, with a nice front porch. When I moved back to North Carolina, I had two requirements. I had to have a porch swing and a waffle iron. And so I bought them both before I found a house.
And a waffle iron?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I wanted to be able to sit on my porch and eat waffles, I guess. So I had to have a big, wide front porch, which I do, and a big garden in the back. And it's just this fabulous house. And I've taught myself how to do plumbing and carpentry and electrical
Me
work.
Me
Yep.
too,
So,
because I live in a little cabin in the woods, and
yep.
my house is very small. It's 1,000 square feet, but I've got a
Okay.
carport that I converted with some. I contracted to finish. I did the floor and stuff,
Mhm.
but art studio right next to me.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it's very quiet here, and it's also we get a lot of storms. So I'm just surrounded by 100-foot pine and oaks, and 13 came crashing down during the last two ice storms. And yeah, it was all new roofs, blew out all my plumbing. We had no water for 3.5 weeks. And people go, "Where do you live in Appalachia?" And I go, "No, East Texas. It's really in the woods." And people don't think of Texas as they think of West Texas, Dallas, stuff.
Mhm.
So if you get this way, but you're going to be in Arlington next week. Well, I want to post that so people can go to the event, even if I can't go. I'm working full time this summer. But um, anyway, the book is The Kudzu Queen. This is a book published by Regal House Publishing, and I cannot go on it enough. It is got the stamp of approval, and get me your next book, Mimi. And uh, any last words you want to share with anybody on just advice or life's lessons or
Oh
uh,
gosh. Just, you know, if you love writing, write. If you love making art, make art. Do the thing that you love and figure out who needs it. That's
well,
something you do all along, Kathy, and I
well,
admire that so much in you.
this is a book that I you'll be thanking me to read. So for all my book club members all over the world that are watching, we're in 800 chapters, over 800 chapters started in the United States, and we're in 22 foreign countries.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I have people that have moved there. And then when I go to India, we're going to start one in Jaipur. But, now with the internet, and Amazon's got, bookstores everywhere. You can read them. And is it published in foreign languages yet or at all?
Fingers crossed, we're working on that one too.
Great. Well, I'm excited. Now, call me first if you get that movie deal, because I'm going to be
Oh,
the first one to buy my ticket and take my friends with me. And I just can't thank you enough for doing this on a Sunday, but I'll get it downloaded, recorded. It's going to be on the Kathy L. Murphy Big Book Love channel on YouTube. Please subscribe. We're trying to get 1,000 new viewers before the big launch is going to be January 1st. I'm going to do an open thing where all the authors can come on, and I'm going to be on all day long. And so you can just come on and talk about your book. And all my authors, I want to start our year off for our 25th year of reading all together.
oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, it's really amazing how long we've been going. Everybody knows about Reese and Oprah's and everything, but I've been doing this I've been in the book world for way longer than 25 years, but I've been doing this book club for 25 years, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm very, very proud of my authors. And there isn't anything I won't do with you within reason.
Oh.
I've been pretty crazy things. I dyed my hair neon orange if I could sell 1,000 copies of a book in a month, and I sold 2,100 in 2 weeks.
Oh
And
my
I made
goodness.
my hair neon orange. It actually looked real good on me. I liked it.
Good. Good.
So I've never had green hair. So if we can get 1,000 new subscribers and 1,000 people to buy this book, I'll make my hair green. How about that? I'm gone to
Love
green. I will. I will do it.
it.
So that's how much I believe in this book. And I know I have another author that's got Judy Christie. She was a reporter she did the book news in the Shreveport Times.
Uh-huh.
She just retired from that, but I'll have to tell Judy because people that are into green, they read every recommendation. So she lives in Colorado.
That's
So
great.
I'll share that with her. And thank you, Mimi. Thank you so much. And I just can't wait till we can meet you in person.
Oh, same here.
So if you send me any event you're going to be, in fact, as a book club member, you can go on the Kathy L. Murphy Big Book Love page
Mhm.
and you can post all your news and I'll share it on all my social media. That
Great.
comes with your membership. So please do that because I try to post them when I see them,
Mhm.
but I'm working full time this summer trying to save
Yeah.
money for graduate school. And I'm going to have a pretty busy fall because this year they've assigned me as a graduate assistant to help the curator of the galleries. So I'm
Yeah.
going to be installing the shows and really excited about that. And everybody listening, next week, Thursday, I'm installing 25, 30 of my paintings at the University of Texas Robert R. Muntz Library main floor. It's my first big show on campus, so it'll be going up, and I'm hoping to do a book talk. So, any big event besides the Arlington one coming up you want to share?
It's quiet right now, actually, and the Arlington one's going to be mostly me teaching teachers how to use the arts across the curriculum. So,
Well, lucky teachers is all
thank
I've got to
you.
say. So,
Oh,
bravo,
thank you.
bravo. Thank you, Mimi.
Oh,
And
thank you, Kathy.
have a blessed Sunday. And I'll send you this link when I get it all up. And can I post directly onto your page on Facebook?
Absolutely. I would
I'll,
love it.
I'll
Thank you for
post
this
it on
so
there
much.
and share, share, share. So God bless. Keep reading the Kudzu Queen, y'all. Here it is. I love it.
Oh,
Bye bye.
thank you, Kathy. Bye.
Bye. Love it.